يريد معرفة الحقيقة.
شاهين شخصية بسيطة وفعالة، سواء كان هذا للمبتدئين الذين يسعون لتعلم أساسيات تكن أو للاعبي أصحاب الخبرة الذين يريدون شخصية قوية وذات أدوات متعددة. إن لدى شاهين مجموعة من أفضل الجينيريك تولز في هذه اللعبة، والتي تتفوق في عمومها على البقية، والشكر يعود لأرجله الطويلة والريكفري القصير، مما يجعله شخصية صلبة. ولكن بسبب الماجيك فور المدهشة التي لديه، أسلوب لعبه يتمحور في حقيقته حول الخطف وتوجيه الضربات المضادة، والتي بإمكانه بعدها الإحكام بخطواته البسيطة والفعالة بجانب كونها ممتعة أيضا. عند سعيه لفتح خصومه، لدى شاهين خيارات قوية من وضعية الانحناء، والشكر هنا يعود للسلايد ميكس اب، والذي يؤدي إلى أوكيزيمي خطير في حالة نجاحه. وإن بدا هذا مألوفا، فإنه يعود لكون شاهين مشابها للي تشاولان في أسلوب اللعب، إلا أنه لا يتمتع بتلك الصعوبة في التنفيذ والتخطيط. هذا الجمع بين البساطة وتنوع الأدوات يؤدي به إلى تحقيق نتائج قوية باستمرار، مما يجعل شاهين خيارا مفضلا في الحالات الشديدة، كما في البطولات على سبيل المثال.
Shaheen has an excellent set of safe, ranged mid-pokes. In particular, his generic down-forward 1 is a step above most other characters. This is complemented with one of the best Magic 4 strings, if not the best, for counter-hit baiting. Powerful mix-ups from crouch, thanks to slide. Due to Shaheen's long limbs and short whiff recovery on key moves, Shaheen has a strong keep-out game. His Magic 4 series and hop kick are also great panic moves, making it risky to pressure him at close range. Solid whiff punishment with down back 2-1 and hop kick. Damaging and consistent combos with solid wall carry. Very fundamentals focused, making him simple and easy to pick up. Limited selection of moves can make him quite predictable. Low pokes and throws are lacking, meaning he struggles to make comebacks. Without even a generic running 3, Shaheen has very little moves to impose frame advantage on block, so he needs to take a lot of risks to open up a dedicated turtle. Many of Shaheen's best moves are weak to sidestep left.
أتظن أنك تستطيع هزيمتي.
Non farmi perdere tempo. Vattene.
Shaheen is blessed with one of the best generic down-forward ones in the game. This really forms the backbone of his entire poking strategy, and due to its speed and mid properties, is Shaheen's best way to initiate pressure. Down-forward one's biggest weakness is its susceptibility to sidestep left, especially at close range. At tip range, Shaheen's down-forward 1 is actually very hard to step. On block, down-forward 1 is only -1, so you have tons of options afterwards. Be sure to vary your offense and keep the opponent guessing. Here are some of the most important options after a blocked down-forward 1. Don't worry, we'll go over nearly all these moves in more detail later in the guide. Down-forward 1 into a fast high will beat the vast majority of standing mids. Jabs are used to maintain pressure, Magic 4 to potentially counter-hit launch the opponent. These options will be beaten by the opponent's own highs, evasive moves, or sidestep left, which is Shaheen's weak side. All these responses can be beaten by down-forward 1 into down 3. However, you open yourself up to mids and can be punished by opponents who crouch. Down-forward 1 into full crouch is high risk, but high reward. This can potentially launch punish highs, and also threaten defensive opponents with a slide mix-up. As an added bonus, crouching and inputting the slide motion will act as an option select low parry against opponents who like to throw out low jabs. Use with caution, however, since while you're in crouch, you're of course vulnerable to mids the entire time. Down forward 1 into a down forward 2 is used as a hard read against sidestep left, Shaheen's weak side, as well as most high crushes. This leaves you vulnerable to fast highs and mids. Sidestepping after a blocked down forward 1 is also a very powerful option depending on the matchup. For this reason, we highly recommend watching our dedicated tutorial on pokes and sidesteps. Perfectly complementing Shaheen's down forward 1 is his Magic 4 series. A Magic 4 is a very fast high, only 1 frame slower than jabs at 11 frames. That leads to a full combo when it connects on counter hit. Most Magic 4s leave you at a heavy disadvantage on block afterwards, so your turn is effectively over. After 4-1, Shaheen is left at -4, which means you can still sidestep certain moves afterwards. Do note that this is at the upper bound of what you can sidestep, so moves that you could usually sidestep when at less frame disadvantage, you may not be able to step here. Experimentation and matchup knowledge is crucial. When you do land 4-1 on counter hit, since the string has 2 hits, it is very easy and consistent to confirm into a combo. Due to Shaheen's long legs, the string also has very good range for a Magic 4, and on top of all this is also a natural combo or normal hit, with a solid 28 points of damage and leaving you at +4, making it a very strong 11 frame punisher. The 2 biggest drawbacks to this string are its weaknesses to sidestep left, and the fact that it doesn't jail. So if Shaheen is being super predictable with 4-1, the opponent can block the first hit, duck the second, and punish accordingly. Though this is very hard to do in a real match, and Shaheen has several ways to mix up 4-1. The first is the 4-4 string extension. This is a high mid string, which should only be used sparingly to catch any duck attempts for a guaranteed back 4. Use with caution, however, as on block this is -13. 4-3 is also a non-jailing high like 4-1, but with a delay in between the hits. This is generally used to initiate screws in combos, but you can use it to interrupt duck and punish attempts due to the delay. While it is less consistent than 4-4 at punishing duck attempts, it is safe on block, leads to a screw combo on counter hit, and has a tiny bit of pushback, which means you can use it when you want to create some space and potentially whiff punish a move with really short range, such as a jab. You might not want to use this string against particularly button-happy opponents though, since in between the hits, it can be interrupted by any move that is faster than 12 frames. Do note that neither 4-4 nor 4-3 are natural combos like 4-1, but of course, on counter hit they will combo, with counter hit 4-4 losing the ability to combo into back 4 afterwards. But it does now lead to a floor break on Forgotten Realm, which you can follow up with a down forward 3 to screw. Finally, you can just use 4 by itself. Now beware that like most regular Magic 4s, this leaves Shaheen at -9 on block, and won't combo unless it counter hits at point blank range. And against certain characters, this is either very inconsistent or flat out impossible. Also, the staple combo when compared to 4-1 does less damage and significantly less wall carry. So all in all, using just 4 isn't really recommended. but can be used every now and then to vary your strings and keep the opponent on their toes. As a poking character, Shaheen is also very reliant on his basic jab strings. Don't underestimate the utility of a simple jab. All jabs are +1 on block, making them a great way to maintain pressure, especially when sporadically combined with down forward 1 to keep the opponent from ducking or crushing. In the initial stages of a match, play safe and compact by poking and prodding around with moves like jab or down forward 1. This serves as a kind of barometer to see what kind of opponent you're dealing with. If they're impatient, then bait them into a counter hit. If they're more defensive, then open them up. Shaheen has some solid, if unremarkable, extensions from his 1-2 string. 1-2-2 ends in a mid that leads to a crumple stun on counter hit. Useful if you're playing against an opponent who loves pressing buttons, but be careful as it's -13 on block. 1-2-3 ends in a safe, uninterruptible high that leaves Shaheen at +13 on hit or counter hit, though the opponent can still block, so nothing is guaranteed. 1-2-4 ends in an uninterruptible mid that knocks down on hit. Similar to 1-2-2, it is -13 on block. However, thanks to the pushback, most characters have difficulty punishing this properly, which overall probably makes it the best 1-2 string ender in most matchups. While this string does wall splat, bear in mind that the risk is also greater due to the lack of pushback. None of these string extensions can be delayed, which hampers their effectiveness somewhat, but you can still wait and see if 1-2 is blocked before inputting the string ender. Finally, Shaheen has 2-1, which is a high mid string, so it has the speed benefits of a jab string while also catching crouches. However, it pales in comparison to, say, Jin's 2-1. On block, Shaheen is left at -6, severely limiting your options, and even on hit, you're only left at neutral frames. Shaheen can also go into his 10-hit string from this. If the opponent is unfamiliar, you can sneak in a low, though it does leave you at -1 even on hit. Just don't overdo it, as with any 10 string, it's easy to low parry once you're familiar. And don't finish the string, since it's basically asking to get launch punished. Still, in clutch moments, this can be a quick and dirty, if somewhat gimmicky, way to end the round. Down back 2-1 is one of Shaheen's best mids, and operates quite similarly to Lee's forward 2-1. This is a wall-splatting mid-high, which does good damage and has surprising range, better than Lee's forward 2-1. With some practice, and on a decent connection, this can also be hit confirmed, meaning that if you see the first part of the string hit, you can visually confirm and then finish the string. This is important because down back 2-1 doesn't jail, so if an alert opponent blocks the mid, they can duck and potentially launch punish the high follow-up. At 14 frames, it is also only 1 frame slower than down forward 1, and when combined with its impressive range, makes it Shaheen's go-to whiff punisher for when you're not feeling confident you can connect in time, as well as a powerful, safe mid you can use to discourage ducking while poking and chipping away at the opponent. Down back 2-1 is also Shaheen's go-to block punisher for moves with a lot of pushback. For example, it will consistently punish Heihachi's forward 2, but not Kuma's due to his weird hitbox. Similarly, it will punish a close or mid-range Death Fist, but not a tip-range Death Fist. Although down back 2-1 is -11 on block, due to pushback it is unpunishable outside of walls. This move's biggest weakness is that it has fairly limited tracking to both directions. It does track just a little to Shaheen's right, which is his weak side. However, this is quite inconsistent. By pressing down forward after down back 2, Shaheen can also enter Stealth Step Stance. This is sometimes also referred to as Sneak Stance or SNK. Stealth Step isn't the most intimidating stance since its mix-up is fairly weak. However, it has a variety of uses, such as maintaining pressure, catching out knowledgeable opponents who know when to duck highs, making certain moves safer on block, creating unique frame traps, and also combo filler. It can be accessed by tapping down forward after down back 2, down 3, 3, forward 3+4, forward 2-4, his rage drive, and after a slide, Shaheen will automatically transition into it. You can cancel out of Stealth Step Stance by holding down back, which leaves Shaheen in crouch guard, ready and primed for a fully crouched mix-up. You can also manually go into it by tapping down forward twice, which can be a decent way to quickly close the distance into slide mix-up range. Stealth Step has some very precise frames at which it goes under small highs like jabs. But this is very inconsistent, and since you can't block during the animation, it's usually better to just dash to go into your preferred range. Although, of course, this isn't anywhere near as stylish. Let's now take a closer look at the moves from Stealth or Sneak Stance. Sneak 1 is, for all intents and purposes, basically a jab, but 2 frames slower, coming out in 12 frames. This is +1 on block, making it a pretty decent move to keep up the pressure. However, don't use it after down back 2 on block, since the opponent will be trying to duck the second hit in the string anyway. Shaheen has a few ways to catch out opponents who duck. Sneak 2 is a mid that also goes under some highs. This is best used when you enter Sneak with plus frames, for example after a down 3 on hit. It's generally not recommended to use Sneak 2 when entering Sneak with negative frames though, as you won't be able to go under highs anymore, and will get stuffed by fast mids. Down 3 to Sneak 2, however, will beat out these fast mids, as well as slower, chunky highs like Electric Wind Godfist. In fact, just about the only move that will beat a down 3 to a Sneak 2 is a down jab. To counteract this, do a Sneak cancel after down 3 and threaten with a slide motion. This is an option select that will allow you to down parry low jabs, as well as threaten with a slide mix-up. We'll go into down 3 and slides in more detail later. On counter hit, Sneak 2 will knock down, also resulting in a wall splat. Sneak 2 would overall be an amazing move, if not for the fact it was -13 on block. This greatly reduces its effectiveness as a conditioning tool. However, a dirty little setup to keep in mind is that Sneak 2 has some pushback on block. This means that if most characters try to punish with jabs, the first one will whiff, and you can interrupt in between with a 4-1 for a counter hit. Though of course this is a very risky maneuver to take. Sneak 3 is used as a hard callout for when you think the opponent will crouch. This makes it a good option if you spot the opponent consistently ducking after a blocked down back 2. While this does have low crush frames, unfortunately they're quite slow to activate, so after a down 3 on hit, you won't be able to use Sneak 3 to counteract down jabs. On hit, this leads to a stylish and damaging combo starter, while also side switching. On block, as you might imagine, this is unsafe at -12. Sneak 3 is also a common combo ender. Here it won't switch sides, but will instead see Shaheen using the opponent's face as a makeshift skateboard for both good damage and solid okizeme since the knockdown is untechable. Afterwards, a spring attack will actually beat most of your ground hitting options, but if you think the opponent will go for that, simply hold back to bait out the whiff. This will allow you to launch punish any type of get-up kick. Once the opponent is respecting you, put on the pressure with a slide mix-up. Sneak 1+2 is a mid-throw with huge range, but don't worry as it isn't anywhere near as broken as that sounds. The startup is incredibly slow at 27 frames, which makes interruption a real risk, though fortunately, as with most throws, you can't be counter-hit. However, the slow startup does mean that breaking the throw with 1+2 is pretty easy, though beware you'll need to break as soon as you see the pink flash, since the break window is smaller than a regular throw. Sneak 4 is a low that consistently goes under highs, but it's generally best avoided outside of okizeme situations, since it's quite reactable at 26 frames, not particularly damaging, and launch punishable on block by the majority of the cast. If it lands on counter hit on a standing opponent, sidestep cancel and back 4 for guaranteed damage. Down 3 is one of Shaheen's most underrated moves, being arguably his best low poke, since it complements the rest of his move list very well. This is a high crushing low, which means you can use it after a down forward 1 or 4-1 on block to chip away and frustrate opponents who try to jab you in retaliation. It also has some impressive tracking to both directions. By itself, down 3 is actually pretty bad though. On hit it leaves Shaheen at -3, and on block is launch punishable by the majority of the cast. It's only when cancelled into Sneak Stance that it becomes an incredible tool. By cancelling into Sneak, it becomes -11 on block. However, you can't actually block while in Sneak, so with the added frame required to crouch cancel and go into a standing guard, it becomes -12, which means it can't be launch punished by anyone in the cast. On hit, Shaheen also goes from -3 to +3. From here, you can use Sneak 1 for guaranteed pressure against standing opponents, or a well-timed crouch cancel to while standing 4 for lockdown, but both options can be sidestepped to the right. Opponents who consistently step right can be stopped by Sneak 2, and as mentioned previously, down 3 to a Sneak 2 will also beat most buttons, except for a down jab or power crush. Most power crushes are unsafe on block though, so if the opponent is abusing them, simply crouch cancel to a standing guard after you're down 3 and punish accordingly. Once the opponent is respecting your options from a down 3 on hit, you can then go for a slide mix-up. Out of the 3 characters with slide, the others being Lee and Law, Shaheen has unquestionably the best. This is a low from crouching that has tremendous range, knocks down, and leads to powerful okizeme on hit. Though don't be too predictable, since on block it can be punished with a combo, though this is heavily scaled since Shaheen is considered airborne. Shaheen can also be put into a float state during slide startup, as well as its recovery on whiff. Also, bear in mind that being in crouch in the first place is risky, since it leaves you vulnerable to powerful mid attacks. Doing the slide motion, which is basically just a dash while in crouch, as quickly and fluidly as possible will take a bit of practice, but it is absolutely essential to Shaheen's game plan, as it is easily his best way to open up defensive players. After connecting with a slide, Shaheen automatically goes into Sneak Stance, and if the opponent does anything except immediately stand and low block, Sneak 4 will connect. Though it's usually better to cancel Sneak by holding down back after your slide, and instead just going for another slide. If the opponent just stands up, this will continuously reset the situation. If the opponent refuses to stand, then a quick sidestep cancel into back 4 is your most damaging option. Though do note that a side roll right while on the floor can evade this. Sneak 4 and slide will also hit grounded. They do less damage than back 4, but can't be evaded while on the ground. While these do carry substantial risk, conditioning the opponent to guard low in response to Shaheen's slide mix-up really opens them up to his powerful arsenal of mids from crouching. In order of lowest to highest risk and reward, they are: while standing 4, a quick, safe long-range mid. While standing 1, slower and slightly less range than while standing 4, but has better frame data on block or hit. Notably, on counter hit, you are left at plus 12, guaranteeing a forward 2-3 for a whopping 51 damage, overall making it a powerful counter hit fishing tool. Up forward 3 is Shaheen's orbital heal. This is a safe on block launching mid that leads to a very damaging combo. However, this is quite slow and runs a real risk of being floated. We'll look at this move in more detail later. Up forward 4 is Shaheen's hop kick. Like most hop kicks, it comes out in 15 frames, low crushes, launches on normal hit, and is minus 13 on block. A solid option all round, if a bit risky. We'll again look at this move in more detail later. While standing 3-3 is a damaging, wall-splatting string with good range. But be careful as it's minus 15 on block, so can be launch punished by many characters. As we'll see later, this also has some utility in Okizeme setups, particularly after forward 3+4 at the end of a combo. While standing 2 is for when you feel supremely confident the opponent will duck. This leads to a tremendously damaging combo, but much like Law or Kazuya's while standing 2s, is an all or nothing option, since at minus 17 is very launch punishable on block. As an added bonus, since this is an elbow, it will beat any counter or parry that doesn't belong to Jin or Geese. With all these mids, remember that a good way to bait the opponent into ducking is by going into full crouch and twitching back and forth as if you're about to slide. Then instead go for a mid for big damage. Shaheen's down 4 is a solid low poke with deceptively long range. Comes out pretty fast, and is only minus 12 on block, so can't be launch punished by anyone. It also gives you +1 on hit to continue pressure. Though, do note that on block and hit, down 4 causes some pushback. So if you connect at tip range, be very careful about pressing your advantage, since the opponent can easily backdash and whiff punish many of your options. Though on the other hand, Shaheen's long legs combined with the pushback means that down 4 is virtually unpunishable from tip range. Overall, down 4 is a strong tool to chip away at the opponent's health while staying at a frame positive situation. Just be careful, since Shaheen is standing for the whole animation, so if the opponent is pressing buttons, you will likely get counter hit. Also, while it catches side step in both directions, it is vulnerable to side walk left. One more feature to note about down 4 is that it hits grounded, making it useful in Okizeme situations. But the most important thing to remember about down 4 is how it makes a very satisfying sound when it hits. Shaheen's hop kick, like most of his generic tools, is a step above the rest. Although it doesn't have the batshit crazy evasive properties of, say, Claudio's, it has above average range and is hard to punish on whiff. This makes it a powerful keep out and panic tool. Indeed, standing just outside of the opponent's optimal whiff punish range and just doing 2 of these in a row can be an effective, if annoying, strategy. Hopkick's speed and range also make it a very effective whiff punisher for when you're feeling confident you can connect in time. Up close, use with caution, as with most hop kicks, this is minus 13 on block. down forward 2 is another generic tool, and although it doesn't stand out from other down forward 2s, it's still a down forward 2. This means it's a fast, safe on block mid-launcher, though it won't launch crouching opponents unless on counter hit. As a keep out tool, it can be used pretty similarly to hop kick. Although its range is slightly shorter, it's even harder to punish on whiff. This is probably best used after a successful sidestep to heavily punish the opponent while still staying safe even if you miscalculated. Another big advantage to this move is that it catches sidestep left, which is Shaheen's weak side. If you notice the opponent is often sidestepping your down forward 1 or magic 4 strings, throw out a down forward 2 from time to time to discourage this. Shaheen's hop kick also tracks to the right, but since it's unsafe, it's not a move you want to just throw out at close range. Do note though, that both down forward 2 and hop kick have very poor tracking at tip range. As mentioned when going over Shaheen's slide mix-up, up 3 is a slow but safe, high damage mid-launcher, pretty similar to Brian's orbital heel. It's slightly slower than orbital heel, and lacks that move's crazy disjointed hitbox, so is less effective as a keep out tool. It also retains orbital's weaknesses, such as its linearity and susceptibility to being floated. Still, even outside of slide mix-ups, this can be good to occasionally throw out, and a good option if you notice the opponent loves to crouch jab to stop your close range pressure. Though Shaheen isn't as focused on the mid-range as certain characters, he still has some pretty decent moves here. Down forward 3 is a safe homing mid that's pretty good to throw out from time to time, especially if you notice the opponent is stepping a lot. On hit, it leaves the opponent at -12, though still able to guard, and is especially dangerous near the wall since it splats. However, it's a little on the slow side, so can be counter hit if you use it too much, and very easy to punish on whiff. On a cursory glance, back 4 may seem fairly similar to Devil Jins. After all, they're both soccer kick type moves, good for hitting characters in low evasive stances, and have exactly the same startup frames. However, Shaheen's is much less useful than Devil Jins. Firstly, on counter hit, instead of leading to a full combo, Shaheen's merely knocks the opponent away. Near the wall, this does lead to a wall combo, which would be nice, if not for the fact that this is -15 on block, so is launch punishable by the majority of the cast. This can again be compared to Devil Jin's safe back 4. This means outside of guaranteed combo situations, you generally want to avoid back 4. Though in certain matchups, you can actually use back 4's negative frames to sneak in a launch. Back 4 has fairly impressive range combined with pushback on block, which means if you use it at tip range, most 15 frame punishers will actually whiff, allowing you to sneak in a hop kick. This is a risky maneuver to take though, since at tip range, back 4 is obviously quite liable to whiff. Furthermore, against certain characters like Noctis or Law, it doesn't matter what range they block the back 4 at, they can always launch punish you. Down forward 4 is another good move to use in the mid-range. This is very fast at 14 frames, and makes full use of Shaheen's long legs. Compared to down forward 1, this has very lackluster frame data on hit or block, so can't be used as a pressure tool. Due to its sheer range though, it's very effective at keeping the opponent out, as well as being an excellent tool to end rounds with, especially when used in conjunction with generic down 4, in this case, down 3+4. Forward 2-4 is an annoying high-low string. This isn't a natural combo, so even if you connect the two, you can still duck to block the low, but it does combo on counter hit. Blocking in time is quite tricky since you really have to be looking out for it, but it is -13, meaning certain characters can launch punish it. However, there's always the string ender, forward 2-4-4, to watch out for. The string ender will interrupt most, but not all attempts to punish forward 2-4. Watch out for Akuma in particular. This string ender is safe on block, but be careful as it's a high. Although forward 2-4 is negative even on hit, due to the string ender, it can set up for some mental frame advantage, made all the more effective by the sneak entry after the low. If the low connects on counter hit, it trips the opponent for a combo. You can pick up with a down 2, or if you'd finished the string beforehand, the last hit will screw. Overall, this is an irritating move to deal with, and is another good tool to finish rounds with. Just don't get too predictable, since if the opponent is on the lookout, the low will get parried, and if you often finish the whole string, the high will be ducked and launched. Down 2 can be very useful in certain matchups. It is exactly the same as Lee's down 2. This is a safe on block mid that goes under highs with small hitboxes like jabs or magic 4s, which tend to be some of the more common highs. This makes it very useful after a blocked down forward 1 or 4-1, though it's less consistent at higher negative frames. It won't go under highs with bigger hitboxes, such as Electric Wind Godfist. But overall, this is a great tool to dissuade opponents from jabbing too much. It also catches sidestep left, which is Shaheen's weak side, but will lose to sidestep right. It is quite slow though, so runs a real risk of being interrupted by faster mids. Other than that, it's commonly used in combos as filler. Back 1 is another safe on block mid that leads to a damaging combo on counter hit. It's a bit sluggish, but makes up for that with its range. On block, even though it's highly negative, it forces the opponent into crouch, so their options are limited. Overall, it's quite similar to Asuka's down 2, but with less range and overall worse frame data. This can be useful when used in moderation, but be careful as on whiff it's very slow to recover, and also has terrible tracking to both sides. Though it does have an excellent vertical hitbox, making it an effective tool against characters like Zhao Yu or Eddie. If you have excellent execution, then forward 3 is probably the better mid-range counter-hit tool. This is slightly slower than back 1, but low crushes, making it very useful in certain matchups, for example against a Jin or Miguel when they use their long-range low pokes. Do beware though that it has a very high hitbox for a mid, meaning that it consistently goes over low-profile moves, as well as evasive stances such as Ling's Art of Phoenix or Eddie's Relax, meaning back 1 is generally the preferred choice against these characters. On the bright side, it's only -4 on block. This is similar to 4-1, meaning you can still sidestep afterwards, but some options may be limited. Another plus is that it will catch sidestep left, Shaheen's weak side, though it will still lose to side walk left. On counter hit, you get a guaranteed down back 3-4, but if your execution is on point, do a sidestep right to down 3, followed by a quick sneak crouch cancel to while standing 3 for a full combo. This is one of the trickiest things you might want to master as a Shaheen player, and while it's very handy against certain characters, its use is overall quite specialized. So don't pull your hair out trying to master this. But if you do, the sidestep right down 3 cancel can be used to enhance Shaheen's other combos. A big shout out to Sasha Da Silva for covering these over on his YouTube channel, The link can be found in the description. Let's now take a look at some of Shaheen's more specialized close-range tools. As we've said many times, sidestep left is Shaheen's weak side, beating both down forward 1 and his magic 4-string. On the other hand, down forward 2 and hop kick will catch sidestep left, but lose to sidestep right. If the opponent loves to step, and you don't want to guess between left and right, then at close range, forward 4 is your go-to homing move. Coming out in 15 frames, this is a little slow for a short range high, but on block is only -2, so you have plenty of options afterwards. On hit, this is +2, and on counter hit will lead to a screw combo. Back 3 is a mid that isn't as fast as Shaheen's other close range pokes, so should only be used when the opponent is playing more defensively. Outside of its somewhat sluggish startup, it's quite an impressive move, forcing crouch on the opponent, and greatly limiting their options. On counter hit, it knocks the opponent down right next to Shaheen's feet for a guaranteed back 4, leading to a chunky 40 points of damage. Use with caution though. In addition to being slow, this is also very easy to sidestep. Forward 3+4 is quite an interesting move. When cancelled into Sneak Stance, it is one of Shaheen's few moves that offers plus frames on block. You'll notice that in comparison to sneak transitions from other moves, this one doesn't move Shaheen forward and the entry animation is shorter. Having said all that, this is still only +1 on block, and Shaheen's fastest move in Sneak comes out in 12 frames. You can use Sneak 2 to slip under jabs, but remember this is unsafe on block, so it is a risk. It becomes more useful when you crouch cancel the sneak entry for a slide mix-up, as well as guaranteed damage on hit, since this leaves the opponent in crouch and in unguardable hit stun at -13. So theoretically, you should be able to combo into while standing 3-3 for huge damage and even a wall splat. But this requires frame perfect timing, and if you mess up, you risk getting launched. Seriously, we tried landing this like a million times and couldn't even do it once. So we highly recommend instead going for while standing 4, which is much easier and yields a respectable 44 damage. Just take care not to do the crouch cancel too early and get sneak 4, since that is very unsafe. One more thing to note about this move is its potential to set up some incredible okizeme. By ending your combos with a dash forward 3+4 into a sneak crouch cancel, you sacrifice a bit of damage for some powerful options. From here, a quickly executed while standing 3 will beat every single option aside from just staying on the ground. Once the opponent is forced to respect this, repeatedly kick them in the balls with back 4. Shaheen's down forward 1+4 is his only command throw from default stance, and is broken with 1+2. If you notice the opponent struggles to break this, then abuse it liberally, since it offers both good damage and strong okizeme. Afterwards, you can use either down forward 3 if you want plus frames, or back 4 if you're going for a knockdown. These will beat both get up kick options, as well as just holding back. Once the opponent respects this, go in for a slide mix-up. Or simply dash in and do it again. Again and again. And again and again and again. To keep the opponent on their toes, you can occasionally mix this up with Shaheen's standard 2 throw. It has similar okizeme, however, holding back is safer now. And it also floor breaks on Forgotten Realm, for an easy combo starter with 4-3. You can generally forget about Shaheen's 1 throw. If up forward 3 is a poor man's orbital heal, then forward back 2 is a lesser jet upper. This is a high that comes out in 14 frames and leads to a hit throw, though damaging, it of course pales in comparison to a full combo. This is most commonly used as a 14 frame punisher for supremely confident Shaheen players who don't want to just down back 2-1. Since this is safe on block, you can also just throw it out there sometimes. Or to create a bit of distance, since it has some pushback on block. But do be careful, as a high it can of course be ducked. It's also a useful tool if you find yourself with your back against the wall and want to turn the tables. Continuing with the budget Brian knockoffs, Forward Forward 4 is basically a poor man's muckbreaker. Forward Forward 4 is Shaheen's power crush, and can be a decent move to throw out once in a while, since it'll blow through the opponent's attempts to control the mid-range. This is best used at the wall however. It leads to a wall splat and is generally unpunishable by most characters, only those with long-range 10 or 11 frame moves. In open field, while it's completely unpunishable due to pushback, the range isn't actually as good as it seems, which also makes it pretty useless as a long-range punishment tool. It's also very slow to recover on whiff, and along with being a high, the risk-reward generally isn't worth it in open field. Forward Forward 3 or Forward 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 3, since Shaheen lacks a generic running 3, is basically just Sneak 3, but performed in Shaheen's default stance. As usual, this results in a combo, but only if it connects at close range. If only the tip of Shaheen's foot connects, the opponent will simply fly away. Considering this move is -12, it's mostly just style over functionality. And even if Shaheen just wants to throw out unsafe mid-launchers, he has better options such as hop kick. Once in a while though, it's always nice to relax, unwind, and enjoy the waves. Down back 4 will go under all highs very consistently. Unfortunately, this move is itself also a high. Unsafe on block at -13, and very slow to come out. All of this really limits its use. Back 1+2 is a unique punch parry, and kind of operates like a really bad version of Lee's one. Successfully parrying the opponent's punch will cause Shaheen to gracefully pirouette to the other side. From here, you can press 1 to follow up with a mid-strike. And if the opponent is still mashing buttons, this will result in a counter-hit combo. But if they just hold back, they can block in time and are at +7. Honestly, this move is pretty garbage. You can use it to switch sides with the opponent, but just no. Shaheen's rage art is completely unremarkable. As with most rage arts, it's a mid that comes out in 20 frames, starts absorbing hits from the 8th frame, and is -22 on block. Shaheen's rage drive is like a souped up version of his down back 2-1 string, now instead performed with down back 2-4. Just like down back 2-1, it can be hit confirmed, though this can be a little tricky if you're playing on a poor connection. On hit, this results in a full combo, and on block it leaves the opponent at -6. You can sneak in by tapping down forward, and if you do so, the opponent is left at -19, though they can still guard. The sneak cancel here is actually quite unique, since it can be cancelled into a crouch at any time. As with down back 2-1, if your opponent is a competent player and they guard the first hit in the string, do not finish it. This is also a non-jailing mid-high, so you'll simply be ducked and launched for your troubles. If anything, the extra blue flash and drive activation noise make this easier to duck and punish. Shaheen is a no-nonsense, to-the-point, utility-based character. Similar to other newcomers like Kazumi and Claudio, Shaheen has very few strings and instead relies on a handful of powerful moves that underpins a fundamental focused playstyle. He has some of the best generic poking and counter-hit baiting tools out there, such as down forward 1, down forward 4, the best magic 4 string in the game, as well as every archetype of neutral launcher in hop kick, down forward 2, orbital, and so on. All of these are a cut above average thanks to Shaheen's long legs and generally low recovery on block or whiff. Although not the most exciting or dynamic character on the roster, Shaheen is a robust and reliable choice who, thanks to his simplicity both in execution and game plan, consistently yields results no matter what level of Tekken you're playing at. Play defensively. Shaheen wants to get close to chip away and score damaging counter hits with his magic 4 string. Always remember that it's better to tank a bunch of lows than get hit by a huge counter hit combo. Take your time to observe the Shaheen player's tendencies, then let them overextend themselves. For a Shaheen player, the most irritating thing to deal with is a dedicated turtle, and while the slide mix-up is powerful, it is also a huge risk. Dealing with a slide. When Shaheen needs to open a defensive player up, he has to resort to the slide mix-up. Even going into crouch is a big risk, since it exposes him to mids. Observe the Shaheen player's tendencies on when they like to go into crouch, and punish accordingly. At mid-range, remember you can always backdash away if Shaheen starts crouching, and if they're getting predictable, punish heavily with a long-range mid. Just don't get overzealous, as sometimes that's exactly what a Shaheen player wants you to do. Remember, prioritize defense above all else. If you are forced into a position where you have to guess between a 50-50, and against a skilled Shaheen player this will happen, don't panic and stay calm. Remember, here it's again better to tank a few slides than duck and eat a huge mid. Savvy Shaheen players will purposefully make their slide inputs slower and more telegraphed to bait you into ducking. Most of Shaheen's mid launches are punishable on block, and the ones that aren't are either really slow or don't launch crouches. When you do block a telegraphed low slide, be sure to punish properly with a combo. With most characters, do a while standing 4 before your staple, but with some, such as Steve or Shaheen himself, it's better to use a while standing 1. Keep it in the mid-range. Shaheen is very dangerous when poking at close range, and can heavily punish opponents who recklessly rush in. So as far as possible, try to keep the battle in the mid-range, as his tools here are quite mediocre, in comparison to say Brian, Claudio, Raven, or Mishima's. Just be careful not to whiff a move with too much recovery, as Shaheen has some solid whiff punishment tools. Hit and run. Shaheen adopts quite a wide stance, and due to his long legs, has a big gap between his feet. This makes him easier to hit than most other characters with long-range space control lows. Adopting a hit and run strategy with these can be very frustrating to deal with for a Shaheen. Just be sure not to eat a hop kick in the process. Sidestep left. Shaheen's primary tools at close range, his down forward 1 and the magic 4 string, are both weak to sidestep left. He will likely be using these a lot, so a well-timed sidestep left can be very rewarding. Just be careful, as he has down forward 2 and hop kick, which both catch sidestep left, as well as forward 4, a homing move that combos on counter hit, though it is a high. Don't fear sneak. Don't be intimidated when Shaheen enters sneak stance. Remember that the only low can be seen on reaction, and launch punished, while the mid throw is easy to break with 1+2 if you're prepared for it. Both mid options are punishable on block 2. Sneak 1 is high and only offers +1 on block. As usual, keep your wits about you, and while staying on the defensive, look for an opening to go back into the mid-range.
لا أريد ذلك، لكن سأقاتلك إذا اضطررت.
Shaheen is very easy to pick up, and true to this, his combo routes are some of the simplest in the game. As usual, this isn't an exhaustive list. We'll only be focusing on the most practical and consistent combos. His main bread and butter works after hop kick, delayed hop kick, down forward 2, while standing 2, forward 3 or sneak 3, a low parry, and his rage drive. This combo is 3 sneak 2, forward 2 4 to start the screw. From here you have 3 options. For max damage, dash and do a down back 2 to sneak 3. This also offers some strong okizeme. Please check the top move section for more detail. For wall carry, run up and do down back 3 4. The wall combo afterwards can be a little inconsistent if you are quite close to the wall, in which case just finish with down back 2 1 instead. For the best okizeme possible, run up and do forward 3 +4 into sneak. From here, a while standing 3 will tag every option except for just staying on the ground. This is also your go-to option for breaking the floor on Forgotten Realm. On the bottom floor, you have the same post-screw options. Just remember to use forward 3 instead of down back 2 sneak 3, since it won't connect anymore. After a sidestep left, the low in forward 2 4 will often whiff. So you'll need to delay the first forward 2 in order to make this more consistent. A simpler but less rewarding option is to just use 4-3. After the rage drive or forward 3, remember to dash in before starting the bread and butter. Also, if down 4-2 connects at tip range, the first 3 will whiff. This isn't the case with hop kick, which makes it the preferred choice for guaranteed punishment situations. After a tip range down forward 2, you can instead do the alternative bread and butter. This is more consistent and reliable, but in turn deals less damage and has less wall carry. The alternative bread and butter is down 2, down back 2 sneak 1, forward 2 4 to start the screw, into the same post-screw options. This is also the staple combo after an up 3 or up forward 3, the second hit of forward 2 4 on counter hit, back 1 on counter hit, and after parrying certain lows that leave you off axis, such as Lee's down 3. Note that against Jack, Gigas or Bears, down 2 after a counter hit forward 2-4 will whiff. So against these characters, you'll need to just finish the string if you want a combo. We'll go over this combo later in the section. After a 4-1 on counter hit, just do another 4-1 followed by forward 2-4-4 to start the screw. The post-screw options are mostly the same, except down back 2 sneak 3 will now whiff due to Shaheen being off axis. So for max damage, it's usually just best to finish your combo with down back 3-4 or down back 2-1. After a counter hit 4-1, the low in forward 2-4-4 has a nasty habit of whiffing. To correct this, try to delay the first hit of forward 2-4-4. This can be a little tricky to time though, so you can just finish with a 4-3 for a super consistent screw starter, albeit with less wall carry and 2 points less damage. After a counter hit 4-3, counter hit 4-3 but with only the second hit connecting, counter hit forward 4, counter hit forward 2-4-4 but only the second 2 hits connecting, and an instant screw, run up and do down 2, down back 2 sneak 1, down back 2 sneak 3 for max damage. For wall carry, instead end your combo with down back 2-1. Against Jack and Gigas, the second down back 2 will whiff in this combo, so you'll need to drop the first down 2 to make it consistent. On the plus side, since the combo is now shorter, you can finish with a down back 3-4 for greater wall carry and damage. After a counter hit 4 by itself, do down back 2 sneak 1 to forward 2-4-4 to start the screw. You have the same post screw options as with the bread and butter. Do note that Shaheen has to be at point blank range for this to connect, and even then against certain characters it's very inconsistent. After blocking a slide, do while standing 1, down 2, forward 2-4-4 to start the screw. And again, the standard post-screw options are available here. When he has Rage, Shaheen can get some preposterous wall carry by doing his Rage drive after a screw. From here, he can either finish with down back 2-1 for wall carry, or forward 3 for damage and Okizeme. For raw damage, simply dash in and do a Rage art. You can even slip in a 3 sneak cancel before doing the Rage art, but this is incredibly difficult. Let's take a look at his wall combos now. His main wall combo is down forward 1, down 1, while standing 3-3. Sometimes if you hit at a very extreme angle, this combo will whiff, in which case just go for down forward 1, back 4. If on the other hand you're lined up perfectly, try to go for a resplat combo by backdashing 3 sneak cancel while standing 3-3. This results in the most damage, but is a little tricky and inconsistent. On to the mini combos now. After a forward 3+4, do a sneak cancel into a while standing 4. After a counter hit back 3, do a back 4. After a counter hit sneak 4, sidestep and do an immediate back 4. After a counter hit forward 3, do down back 3-4. Alternatively, but this is much trickier, sidestep right, down 3 sneak cancel while standing 3, down forward 1 into a forward 2-4-4 to screw. Then finish with the ender of your choice.